So I think you're working with Ryan on his next.
Yeah.
Finally got this file. Discovered a lot.
Definitely.
Very good television.
Oh, sorry.
Who had that information? Who? Did you file a petition with the state CRU or
He was rejected for this
really?
like, I believe just like a few months ago.
Susie, don't you have poster boards?
Yes, ma'am.
Can we get them put
Yes,
right
ma'am.
here?
This is literally for anybody. I have shirts over here that say Minnesota has a wrongful conviction problem from the CRU now. They are in various sizes and they are free for anybody who wants one. They're mostly, I think, enlarged sadly because that's what I have them here. But charges.
I'm always rigging up stuff. Ain't I, Stacy?
Yeah.
This is a medium.
I want one. What color you want, white or
Large.
gray? Oh, when they let you use the window, somebody else using it?
Yeah, they're all good. This is only space.
Yeah.
This is
I didn't
official
either.
and stuff.
Yeah. You want me to wear it? 'Cause there's no beers. You guys all have posters? Do we got all the posters now? Okay. Some more folks can scoot down, everybody scoot down. So then it won't be so rushed to, we go over there too, so we can even it out. Yeah. Okay, let's do it. Let's see your girl,
You got it, you got
What
it.
was that?
Oh, she's trying to confirm.
Remember her last name. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Marvina Haynes, and I am the founder of Minnesota Wrongfully Convicted Judicial Reform. I want to say thank you to every family and every advocate and every community member and every media station that is here today with us. We are here today not because this is a political issue. We are here because this issue is a personal issue. For years, families of the wrongful convicted have fought to be heard. They have fought to prove their innocence of their loved ones while watching birthdays, holidays, graduations, and even funerals pass them by. When the Conviction Review Unit was created, many families believe that for the first time, someone inside the system was finally willing to listen to them. They put their own advocacy work on hold because they trusted the process. Now that process has been suspended, and once again, families are left uncertain. The murder of George Floyd changed the country. It forced America to have conversations about policing, accountability, racial injustices that many communities, especially the Black community, has been raising for generations. His life and his death opened up doors for long overdue conversations about how our justice system impacts all of our communities. But we just can't open the doors. We have to be able to walk through them. More recently, we've seen Metro Surge had a tremendous impact on our communities. We saw increased law enforcement activities, heightened police concerns, and renewed questions about communities. And we are asking for greater transparency. We are now seeking important accountability efforts that has been scaled back. For us, it feels the same as what we have been seeing Donald Trump do and roll back all of the initiatives that had been put in place. It's the same feeling. Today we are seeing the units like the conviction review unit be suspended. That sends the wrong message. We cannot ask communities to trust the justice system while reducing the very units designed to identify and correct wrongful convictions. Today we are asking simple questions. What happened to the more than 200 cases that had already advanced in the investigation? What happens to the family who were told to trust the process? Who will finish the investigations? How will families be notified? Because we found out through a closed source that the CRU was closing down. They didn't even have considerations to reach out to my organization or any of the families that I represent. And time again, we are putting our trust into the system, and they're disrespecting our families and closing down units without transparency, accountability. They also received a lot of funding. $800,000 is in question at this moment. We are calling for an audit of that money. We want to know how was the money spent per families. What cases got priority over cases that wasn't able to move and advance forward? Who are all on the board? Currently, I've seen Bishop Hardin-Smith, part of the CRU board, and that raises a lot of questions by itself because we have been seeing him all over the news for some funding stuff, fraud, that his name has been taken place of. And so we're calling in question the money that the CRU has been allocated. But this isn't just a funding issue, right? This is a public safety issue. We know that families like my brother Marvin Haynes, Mayan Burrell, and a few other families have already been exonerated. With that evidence by itself, why will legislators allow for a unit to be closed down when that's all the hope that families have had? For 20 years, my family advocated, and no one would listen to us. I have families that's standing here today who have been in prison, stating their innocent claim for over 30 years. I asked the question, how much time is too much time for an innocent man? How can this be a funding problem? On top of that, when they get it wrong, that leaves the perpetrator to continue to roam our streets and possibly murder or cause more harm to our community. Somebody say that ain't right.
That ain't right.
And so we are here today to demand that legislators move forward, fund the CRU, and not just the CRU, we want a private investigation team. The reason why we're calling for a private investigator team is because a lot of these people who were in charge to make decisions has already dealt with these cases.
Yes.
They have been the prosecutor before. They have been the judge. They have been the attorney. They have been the person who sat at the other end of the table. So how can we believe that they're going to come back and correct any harm when they're already familiar with the case? And what about a conflict of interest? There was a conflict of interest with Adrian's case. His mother is here today because Chief Allison was his presiding attorney. So when he put his application in through the CRU, what exactly were they going to do for him with that conflict of interest? We cannot play with these people. My mom suffered. Behind fighting this fight, she got really sick. After my brother got out of prison, she ended up passing. Miss Mary right here has been fighting for her son for 30 years. At his clemency hearing, I seen the same health conditions that all of our parents have to suffer and the toll that it takes on our body, mind, and soul. We are calling on legislators to fund an independent unit, one that doesn't have the same players. We are also calling on legislators to act now on the Marvina Haynes bill. That bill supports families after they have been exonerated. Not only my family, what about the victim's family? The Shear family will never get justice. The statute of limitations says that forever you should try to prove a murder case. It has no statute of limitation when it's a murder case. So why aren't they investigating that case? Why are these same people able to continue to run for election right in front of our face and turn their backs on our family? Next, I'm going to call Michelle Gross with CUAVP to the front. Woo, Michelle!
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Gross, MICHELLEGROSS, and I'm president of Communities United Against Police Brutality. Basically, we recognize that policing is the inlet into an entire system that I call the criminal legal system. I do not call it the criminal justice system for lots of reasons. But I'm here mostly to talk about, this is so important to talk about in terms of the justice for people that are wrongfully incarcerated, their families, and the victims. Because again, you have to remember that when somebody is falsely incarcerated, the perpetrator is still out in the community causing harm, and the victims get no justice. So these are important concepts. But even if a person doesn't care about that, let's talk about the economics. This is a unit that, if you look at the Attorney General's budget, uses between $800,000 and $1 million. That's a very small drop in a bucket in our state's overall economy. It's very, very small. Yet what we know is that it costs roughly $68,500 a year to hold someone in the state prison system. That means that even if this unit had managed to do its work and actually free 14 to 15 people who are in the system, falsely, they would cover the cost of that unit. They would cover the cost of that unit. We estimate that there are probably about 200 people who are falsely imprisoned in the DOC. And I want to say something about that, because a good number of them ended up there because of Amy Klobuchar. During her tenure as the Hennepin County Attorney, the number of African-American men and boys who ended up in the state prison system, a good many of them falsely, increased by 600%. So she had a very big role in this, and I question whether the shutting down of the CRU has something to do with covering for Amy Klobuchar. I'm frankly disgusted. But the bottom line is this: we are talking about very little money. We are talking about great injustice to these families and to these people that are in these prisons, and a great injustice to the victims of these crimes. If you look at the cost of holding those estimated 200 innocent people in prison, the annual cost of that is $13,675,000. We can pay for this unit 13 times over.
Somebody say shame.
It is.
Shame.
So we need to have this unit be funded. Now, one of the things that people have said is, oh, you know, these counties are supposed to have these units. They're supposed to have conviction integrity units. We have 2 counties in the state that have that, Hennepin and Ramsey. And Ramsey's barely just got started. So we only have 2 counties. That leaves out the other 85 counties. And many of these counties are so small that their county attorneys are so embedded in the cases that they have prosecuted that these folks will never get justice because they're too biased and too close and it can't happen. So we need a state level conviction review unit. We cannot depend on the graces of the various county attorneys in all 87 counties of the state. So it's completely ridiculous. It's a small amount of money, and there's not one good reason why this unit should have been defunded, and there's not one good reason why it shouldn't be funded again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Michelle. And today, again, we are calling on Minnesota leaders to create permanent state funding solutions that does not disappear when grants end. Next, we're going to call Stacy Gramadas to the front. She is a community leader from North Minneapolis, and she'll tell you all about herself when she gets.
GURIAN-Sherman, capital SHERMAN. I've been working in the police accountability system and the injustice system since 1984, when I was admitted to the bar in California and started as a public defender. I know what it is to see clients ramrodded into the system. It doesn't just happen in Minnesota or California, it happens all over. And we certainly have seen it in Hennepin County, exactly what Michelle was saying when Amy Klobuchar was the prosecutor. I am here to say shame, I am here to ask questions, and I am here to demand commitments. Please tell me what the difference is between Attorney General Keith Ellison defunding and thus disbanding the Conviction Review Unit and President Trump over and over and over again taking funding away from authorized programs that help people in need. Please, tell me the difference between this progressive Attorney General and this incredibly fascist president. I really need to know that answer. I need to know, Attorney General Ellison, what did you do to prevent this defunding? Did you go to your advisory board? Does anybody even know there is a CRU advisory board? Who was involved in making this decision? What other options were available? What other programs could have been not cut but decreased in order to keep this funding? This is shameful. This is political whim.
Exactly.
And we are seeing it at the federal level, and we are seeing it at the state level, and we need to demand accountability. I am calling on Amy Klobuchar as a candidate for governor and Keith Ellison running again for Attorney General to make 2 commitments, and I mean real commitments. Fund the Conviction Review Unit, and 2, be a leader to see that legislation is passed at the state level that will mandate a conviction review unit that be independent of the Attorney General's office and will be independent of political whims and will be independent of bias. You both have a lot to show. If you think that you will get the votes of people just because the Republican alternative is abysmal, think about Harris and Walz. Many of us voted for free Palestine,
Yes.
or did not vote for them because they would not commit out loud, passionately, and fiercely what they stood for in terms of helping everyone. If you think that you can rely on our votes in November, think again. You need to step up on this issue and many others. To my colleagues and friends and neighbors who would say, well, we have no choice. I am sick of being told that I have to make a choice between two different sides of the same coin. Attorney General Ellison, U.S. Senator Klobuchar, you have something to prove. You need to make a commitment. To those of you who think that what is going on with ICE and the Department of Homeland Security is new, let me just say, they have been perfecting and expanding what police have been doing in this country for decades. The difference is, as we see in Maine right now, after the horrible murder of a 26-year-old, the white community coming out and saying, not in my neighborhood. We did not see that and have not seen that in the black and brown community in this state, in our communities. We need to understand that there are people who are languishing because we as white people did not stand up. This is time to get up, ask the questions, and demand the commitments, and say to Klobuchar and Ellison, you have something to show us if you think you're going to get our vote. Thank you.
Next, we're gonna call up some of the families. We're gonna call Mary Riley. She's the mother of Adrian Riley. You wanna speak about it? Yeah, I'll speak about it. Come on.
Good morning. My name is Mary Riley. I'm the mother of Adrian Riley. This is my son. My son just went before a commutation, and just as his commutation was over, then that's when my son got a letter saying that he's no longer approved for the CRU, that they had cut the CRU program. And it's been a hard struggle for me for these 31 years of my son being incarcerated for a crime that he did not commit. And it seems like it's hard for people to believe him, because at the present time when he caught this case, he did not trust his lawyer, which I don't trust him today, and that's our Attorney General, Mr. Keith Ellis. And so, and Paul Snell was the deputy sheriff out in Carver County, and Mr. Snell promised my son that he was going to help him. But to me, it's all politics, lies. They all lies. They don't want to help. And like they said with this money of the CRU was made up in 2020. And what is they helping? How is they helping? We have all of these guys and females in prison right today, and they are fighting for their freedom. And they just asking the community and our politicians to help them, to listen to them, and to bring them home. Like my son, I need my son. And I got in contact with the governor, Mr. Walsh, Governor Walsh. And I also wrote him a letter and asking him about the reprieves because of my son's health and condition that he accumulated since he's been in his and he's behind those walls for the 31 years. And I'm afraid that if my son don't get the treatment that he needs, then the victim family that came out and reported on Channel 11 News and reported with the governor, and they had this hearing, and also with Natalie Hudson, the judge, she should have recused herself also, because my son got in contact with her last year in 2025. And so they all went against her. And I am really disappointed in our AG, Mr. Ellison.
Shame.
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 That he sat there and didn't help my son. He know how those people railroad my son out in Carver County. But what did he do? Thank you, and God bless.
So when Miss Mary is talking about Chief Justice oversighted on one of Adrian's previous appeals. And so when we took him through the clemency court, not only did Keith Ellison supposed to recuse himself, she was supposed to also, because she had also already made a ruling on the case in the past. And those are the things that we're finding, where folks have already had their hands in the case, and then these are the same folks that we have to come and try to get them to overturn the case. What's the likelihood of that?
None.
And we cannot have that. We need folks to have a true investigation.
Yes.
We all know what the temperature was and the climate was when people were trying to make their way to the top. Amy Comershaw played a big role, the role in Marvin's case. And when we were kids, we'll see someone today, tomorrow, they'll be sent them to jail for a life sentence. This was our everyday reality, where our loved ones were just being picked out of the community and sent into modern day slavery.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we're gonna call Susan. Susan? Susan isn't ready today. Ayan is Mayan Burrell's sister, and I want you guys to also understand that the CRU was, shh, quiet in the back. I want you guys to understand that the CRU was actually built for Mayan Burrell. And so it's my pleasure to have his sister standing in solidarity with our organization, Minnesota Wrongfully Convicted Judicial Reform, Ayan Burrell.
And I'm also going to be up here with her as well. I've been working with Mayan and some family members and some supporters of Mayan now for a while, and just basically, just like Marvita just said, the CRU essentially was stood up to examine Mayan's case, and I'm sure that hopefully that name is familiar to people, but again, I'm going to say Amy Klobuchar's name again. Amy Klobuchar's Senate career was launched on the back of putting Mayan Burrell in prison. If Mayan Burrell had been exonerated by the CRU when they said they were going to exonerate him, he wouldn't be in prison right this second. We need to get this man out of prison. We need to get him exonerated. Meanwhile, this is still happening, right? We're looking at cases from 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. This hasn't stopped. We need the CRU funded. We need the CRU funded now. And again, I'm going to reiterate that call to Ellison, Keith Ellison, and Amy Klobuchar. We are going to hold you accountable for these things. Don't expect that you're just going to get votes that you would normally just get, because this isn't the normal political world that we have all lived in for so long. So anything you want to add on specific about Mayan?
So again, my name is Ayanna Burrell. I'm Mayan Burrell's sister. My brother was wrongfully convicted in 2002. He was 16 years old, incarcerated for a crime he didn't have nothing to do with, not even just was not there, but he had nothing to do with. whatsoever. And it's been a long journey, it's been a long fight. In 2020, December 15th, my brother was released. His sentence was commuted, but we've still been fighting since then. So many broken promises, so many delays, so many things that we've been through over the years. Our mom died in a car accident coming from seeing him. Soon, within a couple weeks from my brother being incarcerated, and Amy denied him from going to our mother's funeral. Again, we sat down. Amy, and she promised, they agreed to an independent investigation. That has not happened. The CRU was created after us sitting at the table with Amy. He still has not went in front of the CRU. His case was supposed to be the first case. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking, and we're tired. Like, all of our families are tired, and we just need justice. We demand justice, and we won't fight until we get it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just the last thing I want to say on that is just, just because the federal funding for the CRU is gone, this is not a federal problem, this is a state problem, it's a county problem.
Yes.
We need to take accountability, we need our leaders to take accountability for the problems that are in Minnesota. I think right now, we look very progressive if you live outside of Minnesota, but if you spend 5 seconds talking to somebody that's living in one of our prisons, you realize that we're actually pretty backwards. We have prison conditions that are actually worse than most of the South. So these are things that, I'm embarrassed about, we should all be embarrassed about. We can do better, we must do better.
Yes.
Oh, and I'm Nick Hallanger, by the way.
Spell it.
Nick, N-I-C, Hallanger, H-A-L-L-A-N-G-E-R. I'm part of the Coalition of Free Mahdi Ali. Help Marina with things here, and just generally, we need more people. Like, again, Stacey called this out, white people, you gotta show up. You gotta start listening to people. I'm sorry that it took me 407 years to start listening to black people, but I'm listening now, and I would really like it if everybody else would join me, please. So, sorry for being late, but I'm here for it.
Okay, now we're gonna call Susan. She's gonna say a few words about her son Xavier.
Susan.
You got this?
Say it in Spanish.
I'm Susan Blood.
It's okay.
We got you, sis.
Say it, spell your name, honey. Spell your name.
Susan Blood, S-U-S-A-N-B-L-O-O-D.
Take a deep breath. We got you.
I'm the mother of Xavier Hudson. He was 17 years old when he was sentenced to 37 years in prison for aiding and abetting. An incident he was not involved in. Victim statements cleared my son. The county ignored it. They took away Stillwater Prison. While these guys got to sit in there, they took away Stillwater Prison, had a lot of programming, a lot of things for the men to do with their time. Took away Stillwater Prison, now these men are sitting idle wherever they stuffed them. My son is sitting in Oak Park, maximum. 17-year-old disabled kid. I've tried complaints. I've tried to find help for my son. Reached out to the NAACP. Marvina is the one who answered.
It's okay, sister. We got you.
They're already away from home, wrongfully incarcerated, wrongfully prosecuted. I'm taking away the CRU, which gives them less hope now. I've been looking for help for my son, I find none. I have no representatives in Minnesota. The governor doesn't care. Keith Ellison doesn't care. Me and these families need somebody to depend on. We need someone to help us with these questions we have. And right now, I just don't feel there's anyone here to help us. We have no funding.
But like you said, it costs a lot of money to house these inmates in Minnesota. We have plenty of money for the CRU unit
Yes,
in the
that's
state.
right.
That's right.
That's
Yes,
right.
yes.
They got money to hold people, they got money for the damn CRU.
So they need to dig in their pockets. We know they're very deep,
Mhm.
Yes.
and we need this funded.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And not only do we need the CRU funded, we need Minnesota wrongfully convicted judicial reform to be funded as well.
Yes.
All of this time I have been connected with these families, I have never received any funding. And so when we see 800,000, almost $1 million being gave into an organization to advocate and to go through these cases, the same thing that me, a concerned community member, impacted family, founder of Minnesota Wrongfully Convicted Judicial Reform, the math ain't mathing. And it's not adding up. How can they take $1 million and give us none, and we're bringing cases forward who have true claims of innocence?
Yes.
Next, we're gonna call Lisa. Her son was also 17 when he was wrongfully incarcerated, and we are all dependent on the CRU.
My name is Lisa Real. My son is DeAndre Easley, and he was arrested in 2018 at the age of 18 years old. And he was charged with aiding and abetting. And on Harriet Island, they railroaded my son. He did a speedy trial. And at the age of 18, these young men don't understand or don't know that, they don't know the law. They babies. You know what I'm saying? My son was an artist. He had a music career. You know what I'm saying? He did a lot of, he started music when he was 6 years old in church. I raised all my children, all 9 of them, in church. I am a law-abiding citizen. People make mistakes, they get in trouble. But to give an 18-year-old 30 years is ridiculous.
Yes.
And when my son received that sentence, at the time I was dealing with congestive heart failure. So he received a 30-year sentence. I hit my head on the courtroom floor. I was in the hospital for 4 months. Waking up looking for my son. But they locked my baby up. And then the prosecutor coached another young man, and I got the evidence, to lie on my son during this hearing.
Yeah.
He lied on my son. And the girls never said my son did anything. So why is he being charged with first-degree penetration, first-degree aid and abetting? How can you aid and abet in criminal sexual assault?
And he tried to stop it.
And he tried to stop it.
And one of the witnesses also said that he was
tried-
the one that tried to stop it, and somehow her baby still ended up with all that time.
Yes, he tried to stop it. He asked her, did she consent?
Shame.
A big shame. He asked her, did she consent? And she said, yeah. He asked her, are you sure? And he was going to go against whatever was going on. And she said, yeah, but he still didn't stop it. I have all court documentations stating this. I just feel like my son should not be in jail for all that time for being somewhere.
Yeah.
It was a bunch of kids down there. They did not arrest everybody that was involved in that situation. And they did not do a full investigation. Mark Redding told my son, when they arrested him, that he's going to make sure he get 25 years. Oh, he did more than that. And my son was contemplating hurting himself in jail because the conditions are so bad. And if you're being accused of being a rapist in prison, do you know what they do to you? Do you know how they treat you? And he didn't touch nobody?
Redding said he's gonna kill him.
Shame on him.
Yeah.
Redding said.
Shame. But DeAndre Easley should be released like last year and the year before and the year before.
Yes,
He's been down there too long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Is there any questions?
One of the things that I do, what I do with Communities United Against Police Brutality is a volunteer. gigs. We don't have any paid staff or anything. But what I do for my paid living is I'm a paralegal for a civil rights attorney. And I work with, our practice works with jail, prison, and police brutality cases. So I have probably 300 clients in the DOC. You cannot believe the number of guys that are calling me up now sobbing because their case was in the process of the CRU and they did not even get the notice of a letter. They heard it on the news just like I did, that this CRU is being shut down. There's no explanation, no nothing. I have guys calling me every day sobbing and trying to figure out what they're going to do next because their cases had gone pretty far along. And then all of a sudden they just got dumped, and I think that's really outrageous also. And I just wanted to mention that because the level of pain inside the prison among people that know that they're innocent is outrageous. And so, again, even if people don't care about people's hearts, even if people don't care about justice, they have to at least care about the money, for God's sakes. We're paying huge amounts of money to keep innocent people behind bars. I honestly tell people, I'm not a prison abolitionist. I do think there are people that need to be in prison, but if you're innocent, you don't need to be.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
You got a question?
Yes.
Hi, thanks. I was wondering, I see this sign over here that's talking about, from Xavier's family, about that he's disabled. You're also disabled for everyone, I'm also disabled. There's a very high criminalization rate for the disabled.
That's
Can you
correct.
speak on that? And also, can you speak a little bit about Xavier regarding that?
So when you talk about disabilities, of course, that's a wide range of both physical and psychological disabilities. And there are a significant number of people in the prison system who got there because they had mental health issues.
Yes.
One of the things that my organization is working on is, we bring bills to the legislature every year. We are trying to bring forward a bill called a mens rea bill. Mens rea means that you have to consciously make a choice to do a particular conduct before you get convicted of that conduct. And so that's part of the Universal Criminal Code of the United States, but it is not part of the Criminal Code of the state of Minnesota. So we're actually looking to add that mens rea element, meaning, in other words, you have to mean to do something. You shouldn't go to prison because you were having a mental health crisis, you were flailing around and maybe you smacked a cop by accident, or you spit on them by accident, or some other kind of thing where you could be charged with a felony 4th-degree assault when you were in the middle of a mental health crisis, and cops shouldn't even have been on that scene in the first place, because under Travis's law, the counties are supposed to be sending mental health crisis responders, but instead they send law enforcement, and law enforcement looks through that lens, and they, you're not behaving right, and you're not obeying us correctly, so therefore you get a 4th-degree assault, and now you go to prison. Our prisons and our jails have become the de facto mental health crisis centers for the state, because we don't have enough beds in actual mental health facilities, and because we criminalize and treat people who are dealing with mental health issues, substance use disorder, things like that as criminals. And that's another thing I want to say. Substance use disorder should be treated as what it is, which is a chronic illness,
Yes.
not a crime. I deal with guys every day that keep going back and cycling through the system over and over again, because they come out, they're still addicted, they go and get some drugs, and just for possession of drugs alone, now they violated their parole, they're right back in that system, and they're on and on and on at that, again, expense, where that same money, it would actually be cheaper to treat them for their substance use disorder than to cycle them through the system over and over again. And so we see that all the time. I want to say one more thing about disability. Our prison population is getting older. And as people get older, they become more disabled. They may have more physical ailments. And we do not have a very good setup in our prison system for people who need ADA accommodations. I work with a team, and David's part of that team as well, that is working on ADA accommodations in the prison system. And I will tell you, it is very tough because they try every way they can to deny the accommodation that people are entitled to. And it is a pitched battle in every way. So there's a huge issue around disabilities and things like that. And people that are so debilitated and ill that there's no way in the world, even if they were guilty of committing a crime, there's no way in the world they could repeat that, should be let out of the prison system. It is just asinine to hold debilitated people, with advanced cancers and things like that. It is idiotic to have all those people in the system, and getting them out is a pitched battle. It is really difficult. I've worked on a number of these, claims where people have, they should be getting a compassionate release. And the DOC will hold on to those people, as hard as they can. I have one gentleman who got granted a compassionate release because he had metastatic cancer everywhere. This guy couldn't even get out of the bed. His wife had prepared his home for him. He was ready to come home and die at home, but they goofed around so long on the release. They messed around for 4 months on this release, and he died before he could leave the prison. And I think that's criminal. So we see those kinds of treatments of people in the system, no matter what their status of innocence or guilt or whatever. We can't be treating people that way. But then beyond that, to hold people that are provably innocent in that situation is, to me, criminal itself.
And then, so just for full transparency, I currently speak to about 25 incarcerated people, mostly men, in 4 or 5 different prisons in Minnesota. I have ADHD. I was undiagnosed with ADHD for most of my life. I only got medicated for it in my mid-30s. Almost everybody that I speak to that is incarcerated is either had dyslexia or ADHD, and they went undiagnosed until they were basically an adult. And so most of the people sitting in our prisons, they're some of the smartest people that I work with. They're some of the most ambitious, motivated people that I work with. I'm so honored that I get to talk to these people. I get to hear they sing to me on the phone. I record their music. They write poetry. They're writing books. It's incredible what they get done in there, and most of them wouldn't be there if they had just gotten the right help when they needed it.
Yes.
2 more things I want to say really quick are names that I didn't call out. I want to call out 2 names. Johnny Logan is somebody who was convicted for crimes. Brother Joshua's here. He's a really easy case. The victim in this case says, I was not a victim, I was not attacked, I had a medical incident. He's been in prison for now how many years? It's been
like 9, 10 years.
And she's come out and said,
And she literally
the
worked
victim,
with us.
right, she's
I'm
with,
like,
she's
she's
with
still
them,
our
right?
friend.
So, the state shouldn't be able to use somebody as a weapon against their loved one if the loved one doesn't want to participate in that. If the loved one says, I'm not pressing charges because this person didn't attack me, I don't think the state should be able to take them to jail for that.
No.
And give us 20 years.
Right, so that's one, and then also Deontas Bobo is another person who I have the pleasure to work with. Really amazing guy. He's going to be doing a great basketball event on August 8th in King Park that I'm going to be a part of, and I'll hope to see a lot of people there. But he is somebody who was convicted solely on false testimony, which has since been recanted. It has been recanted. It is on the record. You can find this in court records. It is, everybody in the state of Minnesota knows he was convicted on false testimony. I don't think they're going to let him out because that would force them to admit that there's crooked cops and crooked prosecutors.
Yeah. Is there any more questions before I let Natasha, is also here, her brother, is also wrongfully incarcerated. We're gonna, come on, 1, 2 minutes, because we gotta wrap up.
Okay, my name is Natasha Ben, and I also have a family member that is wrongfully incarcerated with a disability who's not getting the proper medical care at
Can you
Rush
say his
City.
name?
Glenn Akon is not getting the proper medical care at Rush City Correctional Facility. But one thing I do want to call out is a call to action for all the people living in the state of Minnesota, because this CRU unit should definitely be a unit separate from the actual prosecutors, because those people are not taking accountability for their wrongdoing. And so there has been too many cases like Marvin Haynes and too many people where we have found that they have been wrongfully incarcerated for us to rely on this one system of prosecutors to tell the truth about their wrongful incarceration. So we need separate, independent lawyers working these cases, and we need more funding, because the Rush City, the governor proposed their budget and they got $50 million. $50 million, that money could have been allocated to the CRU unit, an independent unit that would help serve families
And be
of
fair.
the
And be
wrongful
fair.
incarcerated, and they can also help the Marvina Haynes Act, who's connecting
For all
other
of us.
families.
Yes.
And she's doing this work volunteer, which she shouldn't have to, because there's millions of dollars being thrown across the table, and everyone is not putting the money in places that there should be, like $120 million negative balance when it comes to mental health and substance use. That is not okay for us to give one entity like Rush City 50 million, but then take money from the very services like mental health, substance abuse, the Wrongful Incarcerated Act. So I just wanted to say that we need to multiply in numbers. We need people to come connect with Marvin Haynes, and we need to Marvina Haynes, and we need to flood this city because this is our democracy. We have a right to and a say over where this money goes, and we need this money to go towards our families who are suffering in prison after being fired and sitting there for 22 hours a day on lockdown. Why do we need to give them more money? $50 million for people to just sit in a cell and do nothing. You tell me. Call to action.
Yeah! Are there any more questions because we have to wrap this up? No? All questions been having?